Ever thought about making a productivity planner and then selling it? I've got to admit, this is a business idea I've kicked around at least a half dozen times, but was reminded of the idea yet again after learning the company Planner Piece is doing more than $22,000 in monthly sales, selling all sorts of different niche planners for fitness, wedding planning, personal finance, and plain old annual goal planning too. If you're a subscriber to this channel, you know that I own two popular blogs in the food industry. So my spin on this idea would be to create a specialized food business planner that helps people to start a restaurant, a food truck, or some other type of food product. However, this is one of those ideas that I've always put off. After all, there's only so many hours in the day and so many business ideas that I can realistically go after at one time. But that ends today, as I am finally going to take a hard look at whether or not creating my own productivity planner is worth the effort. In this video, I'm going to research what it takes to sell a niche planner, how much money I could make from the business, and the total cost I think that it's going to take to get it started. Finally, I'm going to look at all the information and I'll give you my verdict on whether or not I'm actually going to move forward with this business idea. So the first question I always ask before launching a new product or service is, how much money could I realistically expect to make with this idea? I always want to make sure that I'm testing a business idea that at the very least has the potential to make a decent amount of money before I get started. I've made that mistake way too many times in the past to do it again. Everyone's opinion, of course, whether or not a business idea is worth it is going to be subjective, but I can't justify starting a planner business if I don't think I can do at least $25,000 in sales per year. I'm definitely not going to do it then. On the other hand, if I find out that a niche planner, maybe I could add an extra $200,000 in revenue to my business this year, now that's going to definitely be something that I'd be interested in pursuing further and want to do more research on. Now, based on my research, here's what I found out about the sales potential in the planner industry. Oh, hey there. Now, it's been hard for me to find too much good data about the paper planner industry as a whole, but this report on Wired says the annual sales for paper planners reached $342 million in sales way back in 2016. The paper planner industry is pretty niche, so I'm not surprised that the data about this industry is limited. Still, I suspect the sales numbers for paper planners had to have increased over the past 5 years. Next, I always look for case studies published online that mention sales figures a company did on selling planners. And I also like to look at places like Kickstarter campaigns that raise money for a planner as another way to figure out how much other entrepreneurs have sold with similar products. Kickstarter, of course, is going to show you the number of donations a project received publicly, so it's just a really good way to validate a business idea that you might have. So here's a few examples that I found online. This example is called the Freedom Journal. It was launched on Kickstarter by the popular podcaster John Lee Dumas back in 2020. John was able to sell $453,803 worth of these journals that help people accomplish a specific goal within 100 days. Here's another example from Best Self Co. that was also sold on Kickstarter. This journal generated $322,000 in sales from 6,531 backers. Finally, as mentioned earlier in the video, Planner Piece is bringing in more than $22,000 a month in sales, and this adds up to $264,000 in annual sales. Woo! Okay, each one of these examples validates, it's possible to get more than $200,000 in sales from a planner. Based on these examples, it's safe to say there's market demand for a planner product, and especially a niche planner product. So here's one box that I can check off my list. Next, I'll need to figure out the steps needed to create a planner and exactly how much it's going to cost to produce the thing. After all, I don't just want to make a bunch of sales, but as a small entrepreneur like myself, there's got to be some profit left over after covering all the costs of making a planner, like a design, manufacturing the planner, getting boxes, shipping the planner to customers, etc. Let's start with the steps needed to produce a planner, and then I'm going to dive into my estimated costs. Okay, so getting a planner designed is going to be a fairly straightforward process. First, you're going to need to determine the pages you want included inside the planner. Fortunately, you can use any of the thousands of planners that have already been published out there as a guide. I'm sure you're gonna find out that standard planner pages are gonna include things like a daily planner, a daily action plan, budgeting, spreadsheets, and other checklists that you can stick in there. Now, after you determine the pages you want to design, the planner can be pretty straightforward to make from there. I know websites like Canva have templates that you could use if you wanted to put something together yourself, but there are all sorts of people on Fiverr you could hire to design a planner pages for you so that you don't have to take so much time. Check out this gig I found as an example. There's literally hundreds of examples just like this. This gig, for example, will design 25 planner pages for only 100 bucks. If you type digital planner into Fiverr, you're gonna get a big list of people who can design a planner for you, even if you don't have much of a budget. And yes, you can find a gig to design the cover of the planner on Fiverr too. Now that we've got the design part figured out, let's talk about what it's gonna take to bring your niche planner into the world. Now, if all you want to do is sell a digital planner, the process will be frankly pretty easy, since all the customers need to do is pay you for the digital file, then they download it on their computer and then print it off somewhere. Personally, in my own business, I use a platform called Kajabi to sell digital projects, but you could also use a website like Etsy. When I type digital planners into Etsy, I get more than 453,000 results. So there are a lot of people selling digital planners there. I like the digital approach because I could hire a designer to create a planner based on my specifications and then just turn around and sell the product to my email list that I built from my website. You don't have to deal with shipping, you don't have to deal with manufacturing, anything like that. If you want to make a physical planner like you see in the stores though, this is going to make the process more complex. Like a lot of you watching this right now, I have no clue or no experience printing planners, and I don't really know all the considerations to put into account. So there's definitely gonna be a little bit of a learning curve on my end to figure out what it takes. And I would say big time warning here, getting real paper planners printed that are high quality, it's a little complicated. There are a lot of options to consider. Things can also get pretty expensive pretty quickly, but in my opinion, based on the research that I did, here's what I think would be the best path to getting a planner made. These are the steps that I would take based on my research. From what I can tell, print on demand looks like the best option to get a planner printed as a new entrepreneur. These print on demand sites allow you to upload a cover template and a page layout into their website, and then the print on demand company makes the planner based on your templates and ships you the final project to your house or your office. I really like the options available at the print on demand website, mmprint.com. This website gives you free PDF templates that you could have your designer on Fiverr add the design into. The website also allows you to get a quote on printing based on a list of preferences like the number of pages you want printed, paper thickness, size, cover paper, and the style of planner you want produced, like a spiral bound or saddle stitched, whatever that exactly means. They also offer free ground shipping to your home or office after the planners are made, which I think is pretty cool. And no, I'm not sponsored by these guys, but I do think they've got a more straightforward ordering process than I've seen elsewhere online. Another good option to me looks like working with a website called Zazzle.com. Zazzle lets you upload the design of your planner pages into the website and offers the most transparent pricing to make a planner online that I could find. Most print-on-demand companies are gonna make you email them for a custom quote, so it's just nice to be able to get on a website, understand exactly how much you'll need to invest per planner to get it made without having to talk to somebody or wait a long time. Using the sample planner shown on this page, you should expect to pay $25.25 per planner. This price drops down to $15 per planner if you order more than 50 units. In general, the more planners you order, the better the price you get. I would start going through Zazzle to find a planner style you like and start estimating how much it would cost to get a planner made based on your preferences. So, how much do I think it's gonna cost to finally start a planner business? Here's my back of the napkin estimate on all the costs required to get started. Personally, I'd expect to pay $500 to work with a high quality designer on Fiverr. You could certainly find it cheaper, but I wanna hire someone with experience and just frankly knows what they're doing. I would also need to create a landing page on my website to sell the product. I would pay another $500 or so to get a decent looking design and some professional photography photography on my planner added. Now, based on my preferences, I think I could get the cost down to around $15 per planner based on an order of around 200 units. This means it would cost roughly $3,000 for me to get a test run idea, selling a planner without too much effort and too big of an expense. Finally, I would need to consider the cost to ship the planners to customers. If I wanted to add some nice custom boxes with packaging material, I would expect to pay around $1.50 a box from a website called Packola. Finally, I'd need to ship these boxes to customers. That would cost me around $5 per unit probably. So if I add up all these expenses, I could expect to get the first run of inventory for a planner business created between $6,000 and $7,000 all in, with a small run of 200 planners to sell at the end of it. Now, removing the design costs, my anticipated cost would be $21.50 per planner to be shipped to a customer. Obviously, if I grew the business in the future, I could get my cost down per unit easily through volume discounts alone. Considering it's gonna cost me about $21.50 to produce a planner, that means I'm gonna need to turn around and sell these for around 30 bucks a unit to break even realistically on the project. Considering I gotta think about covering things like taxes on every one of the sales, stuff like that. So if I sold 200 planners, $30 a piece, this would mean I'd made $6,000 in total sales. Obviously, my hope would be that I could sell way more than 200 of these planners in the future and get my average cost per unit down, so it would be more profitable. But as you can see, there are a few costs to consider with a planner business than you might have expected at the beginning when you started watching this video. My advice would be to figure out exactly what type of planner you want to make, and then figure out how much it would cost to produce it using the two websites that I shared. Okay. Let's talk about how I would go about selling these planners after they're shipped. So one of the things that's clear from my research is that people with a big audience can sell a whole lot more planners than people that don't. It's sort of a no-duh statement, but it's really important to remember. For example, John Lee Dumas, who did more than $450,000 in sales with the Freedom Journal, has one of the most popular entrepreneurship podcasts on the planet with more than 3,000 total episodes and 100 million total listens. John also promoted the heck out of the launch of his Kickstarter campaign on just about every business related podcast out there, I think. It was on different websites. He went crazy promoting this journal for about 3 months just to get people excited about its launch. Now, I have a bit of an advantage over most people getting started because I do have a list of more than 50,000 email subscribers that I generated from my websites foodtruckempire.com and mobile-cuisine.com that I can use to email and promote my planner. And best case scenario, I might even be able to sell 100, 200 of these planners to my list in an ideal scenario and not have to promote it that much. Of course, I have no idea if my audience actually wants a planner, so there would be a little bit of risk on my end to go through and do it without doing some surveys first and stuff like that. Now, another smart way that other planners are being sold is on private Facebook groups. I know the founder of Planner Piece mentioned earlier that the way she generates most of her sales is by participating in private Facebook groups that are about topics like business and goal setting, vision boarding, stuff like that. This sounds like a good approach too to use if you're starting 100% from scratch and don't have much of a marketing budget. I would add that to my list too. Keep in mind, there are plenty of examples of people doing multiple 6 figures selling planners. But there's also a huge wasteland of sellers on Etsy that make well under $1,000 a year doing this. Obviously, I want to be in the club selling 6 figures worth of planners a year, not 4, and I bet you do too. So, am I gonna do this after all this research? Am I gonna go forward with this journal business? First of all, I think there's a lot to like about this business model. Once you create a journal, get it printed, you're gonna have an asset there that you can sell pretty much as is, I feel like, for years to come. And especially as each new year hits, I feel like you could tweak it a little bit, update it, and then re-promote it and get sales every year at the start of the year doing this sort of thing. I also like that you don't need to create a whole bunch of SKUs like you would to start some other product businesses with this idea. You know, if you were gonna start a t-shirt business, for example, you'd need to create a whole bunch of different shirt designs, and you'd have to think about the materials and, you know, get different sizes to get started. grid, all that stuff. This is much simpler than that. But let's look at the other side here too. And here's what I don't like about the business. I don't like the profit margin of this business alone. The fact is you're gonna need to sell a lot of these to make much profit after your expenses. As mentioned earlier, when you consider the cost of shipping and shipping material and the planner itself, I'd need to charge around 30 bucks a planner just to break even if I wanted to do that right away in the early days. So I think I'd want to figure out a way to create an upsell or companion product to go along with this planner. Maybe I could create a special group or a special training or some sort of other bonus that I could give away to create an upsell to customers so that they would spend, instead of just $30, maybe they'd spend $47, $97, maybe even $297 with me, a few of them. And another thing on my end, I don't really want to spend a lot of time just figuring out what type of pages I want included in my planner. I would want my planner to be totally unique information, and I don't just want to create like the exact same planner that everybody else has. And the reality is I think I'm gonna have to take a little bit of time to think that through and figure out what I want to do with it. I could see myself enjoying the process of making a planner, but I also have a lot of other stuff going on, making these YouTube videos, my main websites, and a full-time job. So in short, it looks like I'm gonna have to keep this business idea on the back burner, even though I think it is a good, decent opportunity for someone else, and it's something I might eventually do. I'm just not gonna do it right now. But what do you think about this business after looking at the research, after everything I laid out here? Do you still wanna start a planner business? Am I overlooking something that I should take a look at? Let me know in the comments below. And if you wanna see analysis of more business ideas just like this one, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.